Good afternoon. My name's Abraham, and I'll be just up here in this corner. I'm here to talk to you about vaccines, specifically the new mRNA vaccines that have been developed in response to COVID-19. I'll be talking about how they work and the differences from our regular vaccinations, like the yearly flu vaccine. I'll also go into a few of the particular strengths of the mRNA vaccines, and how they stack up against regular ones. First things first, I'm going to talk about traditional vaccines, like our yearly flu vaccine. And, actually vaccines in general. Humans have kind of used vaccines or equivalents for almost as far back as 1,000 current era in China. But there's not too many sources dating that far back. But many years and many diseases later, in the year 1796, a man named Edward Jenner made a significant breakthrough in vaccinations. He found that cowpox, an uncommon cattle illness, passed on to humans, effectively vaccinated them against human smallpox. This was a huge step forward in understanding both viruses and vaccinations. Since then, we've been making significant moves forward in vaccine technology and knowledge, and up until very recently, there's been a relatively consistent method in which the vaccines work and are made. Our main options over the more recent years have been to, 1, give someone an inactivated or dead portion of a virus in an injection. The body or your immune system, which is sort of like your bodyguard, sees the virus, recognizes that it's not normal, and begins to make antibodies, which is one of the methods your immune system uses to fight the viruses in question. Or, number 2, which is very similar, we give someone a live, attenuated vaccine, which is a weaker form of the virus, however it's not dead. This is usually injected into your arm, where your immune system, like the first option, recognizes that this is a virus, and not part of your body. Exactly like option 1, your immune system begins to produce these powerful antibodies, and learns what the virus sort of looks like, so your body's prepared when you run into them, whether at the pub or the park or just out with some friends. Your immune system kind of has its own little memory, and both types of the vaccines play off of training your body into remembering the viruses and to begin making the right antibodies for each of them. And while there is some slight differences, these methods have been quite consistent for a very long time. And with good reason. Our bodies are like powerful tools. However, one big disadvantage to this kind of vaccine is in terms of people with weakened immune systems or immunocompromised. Kind of like having a 10-year-old defend you instead of the usual guy, but at a virus level. Injecting people with small portions of a virus, even when weakened, can really put them in danger. Now, I'd like you to keep that in mind while we begin talking about mRNA vaccines. mRNA vaccines can be complicated if you don't know much about DNA. DNA is kind of a short way of saying the instruction manual. Every animal, every human, every plant, and every virus have their own slightly different types of DNA. And mRNA is just a small section of DNA that kind of conveys a message or information. That's actually what the M stands for, messenger RNA. So what does all that have to do with vaccines and viruses and us? Well, it's all about that little message. The COVID-19 virus, like other viruses, has its own sort of fingerprint, just for it, and sort of like a fingerprint, it's visible from the outside of the virus. And, while it's not at the end of COVID-19's fingers, it's actually at the end of a lot of small pointy bits sticking out called spike proteins. And here's where it ties together. The section of mRNA used in the vaccine is actually the special instructions for those spike proteins, or COVID fingerprints. And that's actually what's injected into your body. None of the dangerous virus, just the instructions for making the virus's fingerprint. Now, that's a little bit complicated, but it's about to get a little bit more complicated. The mRNA, or the fingerprint instructions, when injected into your body, teach some of your cells to make COVID fingerprints, or spike proteins. Not very many, but a few. And similar to way back when you talked about our normal vaccines, your immune system recognizes that these spike proteins aren't actually normal, and prepares to fight off those kind of fake COVID cells. And look, don't worry, you're not in any danger of your body fighting itself, but what it does do is learn. It learns what the spike protein looks like. It learns to defend itself early, and to defend itself quickly. Kind of like the normal vaccines. Just a few more steps. So, why are they so complicated, and why do they work so well? Well, realistically, they work in the same way that the normal vaccines work. But the major benefit is that you're actually never injected with the virus. Only the mRNA, or the instructions for the spike proteins. And given how dangerous the actual COVID-19 virus and even some other viruses can be, this is great. It's got huge effects for people with weaker immune systems because they don't actually have to come in contact with the virus in the vaccine. So it's a lot safer for them to be vaccinated compared to normal methods that includes actual parts of viruses rather than just the fingerprint instructions. At the end of the day, it's a much safer method of vaccinations, especially when dealing with particularly dangerous viruses, and it's a huge step forward for us in terms of dealing with more viruses into the future.